The ethanol industry takes its responsibility to public safety very seriously, and the resulting safety record is very positive. But as the industry continues to grow, it's critical that all responders have the information they need to effectively resolve any issues that may arise during storage, transloading, and shipment. Ethanol is a fuel derived from grains such as corn, wheat, and other biomass. It provides our nation with a renewable source of energy used in vehicles nationwide. During 2022, the domestic ethanol industry produced approximately 15 billion gallons of ethanol that was then blended into 99% of our domestic gasoline supply. With the continued use and growth of ethanol and ethanol-blended fuels, responders need to be familiar with its burn characteristics, the type of foams used to combat fire, and application methods that will work best to protect responders and their communities. This video will demonstrate how responders can minimize their risk and maximize their chances for success by acquiring the knowledge and tools necessary to combat these types of fires. To prepare for and respond to incidents involving ethanol and ethanol-blended fuels, it's important to understand the basic process by which it's made, stored, and transported to markets. Ethanol's journey usually starts in our nation's heartland. Here, the grain is grown, harvested, and delivered to a production facility, where it will be processed into ethanol. The ethanol is denatured with 2% of a hydrocarbon, like natural gas liquids or gasoline. This denaturing process makes ethanol unsuitable for human consumption and meets federal requirements. The ethanol, now referred to as denatured fuel ethanol or E98, is then shipped to a bulk liquid distribution terminal by general service rail, tank car, cargo tank truck, or freighter ship or barge. At the terminal, the fuel is pumped into a storage tank. Final blending with gasoline into E10, E15, or E85 occurs at the loading rack, where cargo tank trucks are loaded for distribution to retail fuel stations. This is an ethanol unloading station at a terminal. It is located under the cargo tank truck loading rack. The cargo tank truck that contains denatured fuel ethanol pulls into this bay and hooks up its lines. Once the cargo tank truck is hooked up, the pumps will pump the ethanol out of the cargo tank and into the storage tanks in the tank farm. The most common fuel blend is E10, which is a mixture of 90% gasoline and 10% ethanol. Additional ethanol-blended fuels are E15 and E85. Once the cargo tank truck is filled with ethanol-blended fuel, it's ready for transport to any destination within the region. With terminals located throughout the U.S., storage tanks and truckloads of ethanol-blended fuels are found across the country. Ethanol and ethanol-blended fuels are polar solvents, which render water an ineffective tool for fighting fires, necessitating the use of foam for mitigation. A polar solvent incident in a terminal, pipeline, or transloading operation will be a difficult response operation. These types of incidents can be spills or fires that may exhibit varying characteristics. Knowledge of which type of foam products work best on the various ethanol-blended fuels, as well as better understanding of the application techniques that promote effective extinguishment and vapor suppression, the response community will be better prepared to mitigate an incident involving these fuels in their community. Fairfax City, Virginia, which is located within the Washington, D.C. metro area, has a tank farm terminal with an emergency response plan that is integrated with Fairfax City. About 40 to 50 cargo tank trucks of denatured fuel ethanol arrive at the tank farm per day and are loaded into bulk storage tanks. For distribution, the denatured fuel ethanol is blended with gasoline at the loading rack or at other points of the loading process. The tank farm ships 400 to 500 cargo tank trucks full of ethanol-blended fuel per day, plus additional gasoline shipments. That means that the fire department, as well as jurisdictional neighbors, need to be prepared to respond to an ethanol or ethanol-blended fuel incident, either in transportation or a bulk storage facility.
Hi, my name is Glenn Rudner, and we are here today to take the lab and put it out in the field.
We have taken E10, which is 10% ethanol, 90% gasoline, and denatured fuel ethanol, E98, which is 98% ethanol, 2% denaturant, and placed them in 2 burn props. We are burning between 5 and 10 gallons in order to get as much realism as possible as they start to burn prior to first responders arriving on scene. We are allowing them to pre-burn, preheat the container as we go through these tests, and you're going to see what happens with those rising temperatures of the container, the environmental issues that we're dealing with, and the heat. And most importantly, the various chemical effects of both ethanol blended fuels and denatured fuel ethanol.
To prove and to show both the effectiveness and efficacy of those foams. The first set that we're going to be doing is going to be demonstrating to you the different burn characteristics that you'll see with E10 and with E98. For you, the responder, identification is key coming on the scene. You may see E10 with a 1203 placard, and you will see E98 with a 1987. Visualizing the smoke characteristics of both is important to you as the first responder.
What you are witnessing right now is a test burn using E10 fuel. E10 fuel is made up of 10% ethanol and 90% gasoline. With an E10 fire, you can see the amount of black smoke that is produced, caused by the hydrocarbons in the fuel. It will continue to burn like this because, again, you're dealing with 90% gasoline and 10% ethanol. Next, we will demonstrate for you the difference in the burn characteristics that you'll see with an E98 burn, an ethanol blended fuel that is just 2% gasoline or denaturant and 98% ethanol. So, as you can see by the second burn, the burn characteristics are completely different than that of E10. E98, no smoke or very little smoke on the immediate start of the fire. These are great visualizations and clues as you're approaching an incident scene. Again, simple basic clues such as E98 is going to have a placard of 1987, whereas gasoline is going to be 1203, which of course is E10. Looking at these clues as you approach the incident scene will give you a good idea of what you're dealing with prior to coming on scene. You can start planning for foam usage, types of foam, and of course, dealing with the problem.
The second set here is to show the efficacy of AFFF using it against E10 and E98. It gives you the opportunity to see that in either of these two, AFFF does not do a very good job.
So this demonstration is going to be the rain down effect using AFFF on an E10 fire. The problems that we're going to run into here are the cooling effects are going to be minimal at best, and the fire is going to continue to burn. As you can see with AFFF foam, it's currently just boiling away. The foam will continue to boil until the entire foam blanket disintegrates, and there will be no foam left to offer the vapor protection that's necessary. One of the things you're going to have to take care of during the initial phases is cooling this container. The container currently has temperature of over 400 degrees. We let it pre-burn for about 3 minutes and it got up to 500. So you can see there's minimum cooling that has occurred. As you can also see, reignition happens to be very easy because the foam blanket that's here does not offer a complete and controlled blanket. So we're reburning once again. The next demonstration will be bouncing it off the back wall of the container while it's burning. Current temperature of the tank is approximately 400 to 500 degrees, but the key is if you're looking at the bubbling, that means the water is dripping out quickly based on the temperature. Remember, the boiling point of water is 212 degrees. The primary constituent of foam is water. With this method, you're seeing the burn off of the foam blanket because of the ineffectiveness of AFFF. The E10 issues, even the small amount of ethanol will continue to burn. You can see that there is reignition quickly on a foam blanket. Notice how quickly the foam blanket breaks down, drips out, and if you listen closely, you can actually hear it boiling. With E98, an attempt to rain down on the product, look at the foam blanket disappeared very quickly. No extinguishment has occurred, and the foam blanket has very quickly disappeared. Again, the chemical properties of this product cause the water to move right out of the foam. This application will be the bounce-off method using the back wall. Notice what happens to the foam blanket. So, if we had a meter, you could go ahead and look, but I think it's obvious you're going to end up with LEL and no protection for the first responders.
In this set, we're now going to start burning E10, followed by an application of ARAFFF to demonstrate its effectiveness on fires. We'll follow up with E98 and allow you to see the effectiveness of the AR. What's important to realize is when using ARAFFF foam, you have that polymeric membrane that is formed, and that will help to protect you, the responder.
So the next example is going to be using ARAFFF on E10. And as you can see very quickly, there is a knockdown. Then notice the blanket that is formed. There is no reignition. Notice how long the foam blanket stays in place. Notice the adherence to the side of the container. Even at the high temperature, you're not seeing the same bubbling and drip down as you saw with AFFF. So immediately, you can recognize the difference between the use of AFFF foam and ARAFFF foam. One of the great parts about ARAFFF is its own healing capabilities. As you can see, even though there was still fire, the ARAFFF was able to adhere to the side of the container, and the fire has been extinguished. Notice the way the foam heals and adheres to the side of the container. One of the great parts of ARAFFF foam, you could see that the foam blanket is intact. And here we are 1.5 minutes, almost 2 minutes, and no drip down as you would normally have with AFFF.
We'll follow up with E98 and allow you to see the effectiveness of the ARAFFF.
During the initial attack, the fire department is going to apply using a rain down into the product, starting to cool as quickly as possible and then bouncing it off the back, increasing the flow in order to suppress the vapors and extinguish the fire. You can see the dissipation of the heat and the excellent job of vapor protection that the foam produces. ARAFFF, alcohol-resistant, aqueous film-forming foam, does an excellent job of suppression of vapors and extinguishment as well as cooling. When you talk about the adherence and the membrane of AR foam, you can see here how it's adhered to the side of the tank. Meter readings would indicate that there is little to no vapor being emitted from the product. That is the advantage of this type of foam. When we talk about ARAFFF foam, the one thing that's important to recognize is this barrier that is formed that stops the vapors from escaping. You can see as we tear it apart that the barrier stays in place. The foam over time will drip down, but this barrier is what protects you, the responder, from the vapors of the product. As you can see in the background, you can't tell the difference between the water layer and the alcohol because of the miscibility of the foam and the water and alcohol mixture.
In this set, we're going to be demonstrating green foam
That is now known as ARAFFF foam
on both E10 and E98. One of the key factors that you're going to find out that it is a great knockdown, but reapplication is going to be extremely necessary because of the fact that now that polymeric membrane does not form as well and does not stay as long.
As a note here, one of the things that you have to recognize is the proper tools as well as the proper foam. Air aspirating nozzles provide air into that foam, which then allow it to expand to the proper ratios with the proper type of application. Raining down on top of it with an air aspirating nozzle provides and shows a tremendous number of bubbles and also a great foam blanket. When you start bouncing it off the side, you need to increase the flow so that you produce enough bubbles in order for the foam to do its job. The next burn that we're going to do is going to be E10 fuel, 10% ethanol, 90% gasoline. This time though, the foam that we are using is a green foam that is an AR synthetic that is now known as ARAFFF foams. We're going to preheat the tank for 2 to 3 minutes, getting the temperature up just like you would see in a response to an incident, and then go to extinguishment. We are going to watch for the ability to rain down and do knockdown, roll and bounce to see what extinguishment characteristics there are in this foam. If there aren't, you will see it immediately. You can see how quickly the temperature rises in this container. It went from roughly current air temperature of about 85 degrees, and it is already 900 degrees. We've only burned for about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. So our crew is going to take their nozzle. They're going to start to rain down on top of the fire as he approaches, and then bounce it off the side, and then roll it in. Tremendous amount of steam is what we see as it's absorbing the water from the foam. But notice how quickly the foam blanket is shrinking. If we look along the container edges, we can see it breaking down. The high volume of steam is that of the foam breaking down. The foam that we are currently using is a green foam that is an AR synthetic that is now known as ARAFFF foam and is being used for polar solvents. As you can see, it's holding at this time. At this point, we could be happy to say that this product is effective. But again, your application rate is going to vary based on product, burn time, size, and depth of spill. Remember, these are test burns here at a training center. So recognize that when you have a spill, it is in depth. Your application rate may be increased, and your reapplication rate will be shorter periods of time in between. So the new green foams do an excellent job with quick knockdown. However, as you can see, the burn back is different. This was a short-term fire in here, bringing the container right back up to about 900 degrees. But notice how quickly your blanket is shrinking. This is the new ARAFFF foams, which does form a similar polymeric membrane that is not as thick as the legacy ARAFFF foams, but environmentally and responder safer foam due to the lack of PFAS chemicals. So to point out once again, using an aspirating nozzle, injecting a bunch of air, making big foam bubbles also causes faster drip down. And as you can see, reapplication will be necessary in a shorter period of time as compared to the legacy ARAFFF foams. The next burn is going to be E98 using the same green foam. Again, using an aspirating nozzle, we're going to go ahead and rain it down as we make entry, followed by a bounce and then a roll. One of the important things here, and the difference between an E10 burn and an E98, is the fact that we're using a higher concentration of ethanol in the product, which means a higher rate of application due to the drip down effects of ethanol on the foam. Again, as demonstrated before, using a rain down and then now a bounce off the back, have a higher application knockdown and a foam blanket. Watch the difference in the foam blanket than you saw in E10. It's breaking down more quickly because the concentration of ethanol. Here we're using green foam, and this is a lot different than using the legacy ARAFFF. This has taken less than 30 seconds, and we have already lost our foam blanket. The problem here is that we still have a high temperature in the tank, and reignition will be very easy with either an outside ignition source or the temperature of the tank metal. Notice how quickly we now have reignition. So again, another application is going to be necessary. Higher percentages may also be necessary. Here, we're using ARAFFF foam. The high level of application rate, as you can see, will extinguish. But with the cooling of the tank and more cooling of the product, you notice the blanket is not shifting as quickly and you'll have less drip down because you've changed the temperature and the characteristics. Plus, in reality, you've diluted the alcohol with water and the blanket is staying. Notice that the blanket is stabilized because of the higher amount of application. Again, multiple applications with the new ARAFFF green foams will be necessary to protect first responders. Same as before. Notice because of the E98, watch how quickly the foam blanket breaks down and reignition can occur without an additional application. This is imperative to first responders to remember that today's new green foams, the ARAFFF, is going to have an immediate reapplication. In the event you're dealing with placarded 1987 rail car, 1987 cargo tank, or if you had a facility and you're dealing with a storage tank of 1987. Another tool that will prove to be extremely important during one of these applications is going to be a thermal imaging camera. By monitoring the temperatures of the metal, by monitoring the temperatures of the product, you'll be able to safely do your multiple applications when they are needed and not waste time and waste foam. One of the differences that you will see in the new green foams is you don't have the same polymeric membranes that you saw before in the legacy ARAFFF foam. Notice how quickly the foam breaks down. Though you do have a membrane forming, it will not be enough to provide a vapor barrier as the legacy ARAFFF foams provided. Therefore, multiple applications will be necessary in order to form a better barrier that will protect you from the vapors.
Risk assessment at a community level is critical for effective hazardous materials response. Knowledge of the materials being stored and transported within their jurisdictions is critical to being properly prepared for an incident involving these materials. Emergency response and preparedness organizations need to have the proper equipment, the proper foam extinguishing agents, and the proper techniques training in their application to effectively mitigate an incident. As demonstrated in this program, the traditional methods of responding to a gasoline emergency are not going to be effective with ethanol or ethanol-blended fuels. It's important to recognize the materials and hazards that are in your community. It's also important to understand the risks involved with ethanol and ethanol-blended fuels and possess the proper equipment, the right foam concentrates, and the right training to respond to these types of incidents should they occur.